Let's talk about one of the ways that tulpas and tulpamancers communicate, which is referred to as tulpish. It's more of a quick way of communicating thoughts that's a little bit faster than language. So it's kind of really early in the morning and my coffee's running out, but here I am. So, when tulpas and tulpamancers communicate, they are communicating through thoughts, where you have two different brain patterns that are sharing information back and forth. And this, for, of course, this depends on the individual, but a lot of that communication is one says something, the other responds back and forth, like a normal conversation between two people. Um, Tulpish, on the other hand, is more of what has been termed raw thought, where it's just instant information transfer. Like, okay, I get it. Like, people that have spent a whole lot of time together can communicate something silently through a look or a gesture. And I'm not talking about, hey, when I make this hand gesture or when I roll my eyes, that's the signal kind of stuff. None of this preloaded, hey, you understand what I mean when I do this or when I say this kind of stuff. It's like when my when my wifey gives me a look, sometimes I know exactly what it means, depending on the context of the situation, you know. And the really interesting thing is that with Tulpish, what I'm trying to communicate to you guys, I wish I could just do a Tulpish thing between me and you, and then you would get it. That's the idea. It's an instant idea transfer that is so quick. It's just transferring an idea from point A to point B that's instantly understood. I mean, it's kind of like somebody who is really good at math and they just know how to instantly do this thing or some process, but they can't explain it. It's kind of like, oh, I know what the answer is. Well, how did you get there? My brain just figured it out. I mean, that's one of the biggest excuses I've ever heard with kids that never want to show their work, but I think you guys are getting the idea of what I'm trying to communicate here. Let me know in the comments, of course, if I need to clarify some things. But so, when you have an idea that just instantly hits you, like when you're trying to think about how to solve a particular problem, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, all those pieces just come together, all those parts just come together, and boom, you get the big picture. That's the kinds of thoughts and ideas that I'm talking about. You can logic your way through something step by step, or you might have that aha moment that allows you to instantly just jump from point A to point B to find a solution. It's those quick thoughts that are just immediately understood that are not put into a language format. So this is one of those other videos that I took notes on. Let's see. As if the page itself was not open to the right one, which it wasn't. I'm blaming the book. Let's see. You guys are probably laughing at me right now. Yeah. So, I mean, essentially, that's Tulpish is a really it's a simple concept that it's almost like when it happens, you understand it, and sometimes we don't exactly know the terms for when things occur in a certain way. Um, we don't exactly know what to call them. It's kind of like how what we call burping is really known as eructation. Um, when something happens that you can't wrap your head around, you just know it. So the cool thing that happens, like a lot of tulpas and their tulpamancers, they communicate through language back and forth, which is the way that I prefer it and the way that it works for me. Is that back and forth talking, and sometimes what happens is the tulpish thing kind of happens where there's an idea transfer, but then I don't know, my brain tries to like logicify it. New word, it's going to be a thing, where then it tries to unpackage it and put it into words, and I kind of have to stop myself and be like, no, I get the picture. What's the point of that? I think it's because I like to have things kind of you know processed out. I mean, being a teacher, you have to process everything out. So you have to be able to communicate what you know in a manner that you are able to share it with other people. So, I mean, once you get that idea transfer, you can unpackage it or you can just go with it. You know, it's personal preference of interaction and stuff. And that's one of the things that makes the um, interactions between a Tulpa and Tulpamancer unique is that ability to have that instantaneous information transfer. Whereas if I'm talking with somebody else, I gotta listen to their entire spiel and I have to process it and then get it. And you know, neurologically speaking, because it's sharing the same consciousness and the same mind. Really, what you're having is one thought track generating an idea, and then it's communicated to the rest of it. So it's instantaneously accessed information. It's kind of like if you have Microsoft Word open and Google Chrome open, because if you use Internet Explorer in this day and age, oh, shivers. Oh, can't believe I just talked about that. Anyway, I'm digressing with humor because I'm tired and sarcastic and I haven't finished the coffee yet. But when you're able to transfer something from one computer program to another, where one is able to communicate to another kind of fast, it's almost like the click and drop of a file from the desktop into a program, and boom, it happens. You know, like I remember when I started using a Mac, and you were able to just click and drag a picture into like a Word doc, and boom, it would just pop right up there. Whereas I was used to Windows, where I would have to, you know, I'm trying to think, like it was like edit, insert picture from file, find the file, click it, then it pops up, then you have, and it always showed up really small, and then you have to stretch it. See the difference of bing, boom, versus all that process and then size it? That's a really good analogy now that I think about it. Should have written that one down. But it's that instantaneous process. So, I mean, if you ever have those kinds of moments where you get that super fast-paced communication, that's nicknamed Tulpish. Why? Because it's a, you know, it's a nickname for a language thing that Tulpas can use, and us as Tulpamancers can do that back and forth. Once again, it's personal preference, and sometimes, at least for me, it just happens instantaneously. I think it has to do with like how my brain is working on stuff, and if there's enough RAM, for lack of a better term, to process something out, or you know, because if there's not, it just transfers from one thought track to another one. So yeah, this is a little bit shorter than my other Tulpa videos, I think, but just trying to explain Tulpish as good as I can. So let me know how I did down in the comments. Remember that you guys can check out any of my other videos in the Tulpamancy playlist, which explores both the metaphysical side and the psychological side of it. If you are interested in the Simon Necronomicon and how to work with that, I have a Simon Necronomicon playlist. If you're interested in learning how to do the gate walking, I have my book, The Guide to the Spheres and Beyond, which is on Amazon. And if you're interested in learning about how magic and psychology interplay and work together, I have my book, Magical Theater. I also have my book that explains my own personal method of handy sigil magic, which is activating sigils through physical movement and visualization. And then I have my book, Magical Mechanics, which explains how magic works within the confines of our physical universe and how to access those kinds of energies through quote-unquote mechanics, which are kind of like laws. All of those books are on Amazon. You can check out my general magic playlist for learning how to do the basic tenets of magic, and you can even check out my theories of magic playlist, which kind of carries into my book, Magical Mechanics. I don't think I left anything out other than my email is priestofthenecro@gmail.com for any questions, comments, complaints, concerns, and issues. So, yeah, check out my stuff, feel free to communicate, and good hunting.